Kansas State at Oklahoma. Oklahoma is laying 12.5, over under 53.5. These two teams coming off completely different weeks. Kansas State, maybe they got caught looking ahead a little bit, but we love this Tulane team. They lost outright at home to Tulane, while Oklahoma destroyed Nebraska, much to my displeasure. And, I if you look back historically over the past few years, Kansas State always a big dog against Oklahoma. Sometimes wins outright, always scares them. And so when I start looking at this game, my first initial lean is to Kansas State. I was waiting on 14. It's never going to get there. I'll probably still end up playing them from a numbers perspective. Look, their defense will be ready, but I'm worried about, and I still have questions about the Oklahoma offense, right? Like Oklahoma's offense, Dillon Gabriel has looked good, but he's played nobody. And, when you consider against Kent State, they didn't do much the whole first half. Against UTEP, they're a little struggle at times. Wasn't as pretty as you would have liked to see. And then they destroyed Nebraska. And we thought Nebraska's defense was going to be up and emotionally and ready for it. But we talked about how much Nebraska's defense stinks. Nebraska's defense got shredded by Georgia Southern. They got shredded by Northwestern, right? So I don't want to just go on and say this Oklahoma offense is now a juggernaut. I still have some questions about it. But my primary question here, which is giving me a little pause, so the number says play Kansas State here, the spot says play Kansas State, is Kansas State cannot throw the ball. And they are not throwing the ball deep. We've talked about this over multiple weeks. They're not attempting any passes deep. Adrian Martinez is like, they're just saying, be the game manager, hand the ball off to Deuce Vaughn, one of the best backs in the country. Now, Venables knows this, and Oklahoma has some dudes up front. So if Kansas State is not going to take shots, now the hypothesis is they blew out a couple teams and then they were in a war with Tulane. Let's not have Martinez make mistakes. Let's not show anything before Oklahoma. But like you gotta go out and win the game against Tulane. They still didn't show. They weren't throwing the ball down the field. And so I'm concerned about what is this Kansas State offense going to look like. You always have to be concerned about Adrian Martinez turnovers too. So maybe there's a reason for it that they weren't even attempting passes. Like the yards per attempt are pathetic. The total pass yards are pathetic. And it really cost them a game against Tulane because they found themselves in a war. So I think they end up covering this game, but I'm a little bit hesitant thinking about, okay, what is this Kansas State offensive game plan here? And if they're just going to try to hand it off and never throw it down the field, Oklahoma's defense will shut them down. What are your thoughts here? Because I know you love Kansas State, Email, baby.
I think Kansas State can beat them outright. Despite the loss to Tulane, this sets up real nicely for Kansas State from an advanced stat perspective. Kansas State's offense is top 25 in line yards. And Coach Kleiman indicated this week that Adrian Martinez is going to take more initiative in running and throwing. They're going to open up the playbook for Adrian Martinez. Now, that could go really well.
Well, they fucking better.
Yeah, that could go really bad. It could go really well. But I think the key metric here, when I said the advanced stats line up nicely, Oklahoma is 110th in defensive line yards. This is a Kansas State offense that likes to run 21. They're going to put Deuce, a fullback, Adrian Martinez. They're going to run a real heavy rush. And the fact that Oklahoma is also 71st in defensive rushing success rate on a schedule against UTEP, Kent, Nebraska. It's embarrassing to have those kind of numbers. Now you look at the other side of the ball. Dillon Gabriel was looking Heisman-esque against Nebraska's defense. I think almost anybody could right now, but Kansas State's 15th in coverage. They actually have a track record of, UTEP likes to throw deep. Kent State likes to throw a lot. I'm sorry, let me take that back. So Kansas State is 15th in coverage, and they're the end defensive passing success rate. And more importantly, they're top 15 in defensive finishing drives. So they're stopping air attacks and they're stopping teams that cross the 40-yard line. And the Kansas State defensive line is going to give Dillon Gabriel his first dose of pressure as a Sooner. We have not seen that yet for Gabriel whatsoever. And when we saw him get pressure for Central Florida, he's prone to turnovers. So I think we're going to see a lot of that too, because this Kansas State defensive line is legit when it comes to applying pressure. So I expect Kansas State to slow this way down, 29 seconds per play. If their back seven can tackle at all, so that these Oklahoma targets that get hit in the second level, they can stop that from being an explosive play, which I think is a big ask from the back seven of Kansas State. But I think offensively, Kansas State can control the clock. They can keep it on the ground. Adrian Martinez is getting the playbook open up. Could be, I mean, it's a roulette wheel, right? We don't know how it's going to go, but I think Kansas State absolutely can win this game outright. I do not believe in this Oklahoma defense at all.
Yeah, Martinez is going to have to do something. Is my point. I mean, the line yards are concerning, but it doesn't matter if you're not going to throw it downfield. You just bring your safeties up, and so. Yeah, they do have to. They have to open it up here. But this coaching staff has had a ton of success against Oklahoma. Back in 2019, they beat Oklahoma as the number 5 team in the country. They beat them again in 2020. Then last year they lost by 7? So all the games have been close. I think it's close once again. But I just need to see this staff open it up, and I assume they will after last week. There's no other choice in this matchup, but that would be my concern. But I agree. I'll be on Kansas State with you. We're in a dead range right now. Like, I hope maybe I won't miss 13. Maybe it'll come back to 13 for me. But I was willing to wait, and I missed it to see if we can get 14. I'll be on it at 12 and a half anyway, but there's no point in rushing right now. At a line of 12 and a half, but I'll keep my eye out on the market.